Mark Mullinex here. Welcome back to Power for the Peaceful, our class and podcast that treats each of Tao Te Ching's 81 verses. Today, verse 66, Upside Down Leadership. I thought of another title, Wise Up by Going Low, but that was the title of verse 39. Same idea here. It's all about better leadership, which is flipped leadership.
When you listen to the ground and you put your roots down, you can hear what she says if you're listening. When you listen to the ground and you put your roots down, you can hear what she says if you're listening. The sweet sound of the river as she moves over the stones. The same song that the blood in your body sings as it weaves around your bones. When you're listening, are you listening?
The opening quote, "The person who desires to rise above all things must descend below all things." This is Jesus, as quoted in the Gospel according to Thomas. I'm flying solo today. My guest is under the weather, and I hope she'll be with us soon. Gravity carries everything from high to low, eventually. In the end, that is, gravity wins. This verse asks, why not just skip the high part and just stay low? How much wasted energy do we expend trying to ascend with our heavy egos to the one place, the high, where we are the least aware, the most ignorant, and the one place in which we are not meant to live? Once again, Lao Tzu provides us with an alternative to the ways we have come to live, if you can call it living. He might call it settling. Why not just be natural, like water, ever seeking the low and merging with what Tao Te Ching calls the dusty and the low? This is our next to last verse in the 11 verses in a row, 57 to 67, that speaks to the qualities of a good leader or parent, ruler, even politician. You ready? Here's our verse. Verse 66, Power to the Low. Consider how lakes and oceans enlarge because they, being lowest, welcome every stream and river. Naturally being the lowest is what makes them greatest. So the one who would be chief on high must be the humble servant of the low. By following the people is his progress measured. The best leader seems weightless. Her subjects feel no threat or harm, so no one tires of praising her. Stay low. A king who does not strive does not offend, so no one gets defensive around him. Wow. This is so counterintuitive to the news of the day. Leaders who don't strive, who lead from humbleness. Does this even work? Is it even possible that a state's citizens get served by a leader who does not strive? Is Lao Tzu crazy? Joking? Does he need a reality check? Lao Tzu, we have this expression, nice guys finish last. Lao Tzu asked a timeless question. Is lying, or ignoring the truth, or bending the truth, or forcing lies into the public arena, are these a part of the authentic leader's toolbox? Asked another way, can a leader who does not force or lie be a leader? Well, you say, Jimmy Carter seemed to be an example of Lao Tzu's upside-down leadership. Was he a one-off? An exception that proved Lao Tzu correct? And if he was, where are the Jimmy Carters today, huh? Lao Tzu assumes that the way leadership most often manifests is manifestly opposite of a better way of leading. Today, this better way, this Taoist leadership way, is still not popular, but it has a modern name, servant leadership, a term made popular by Robert K. Greenleaf in his 1970 book called The Servant as Leader. Before leading, one must desire, and then also decide to follow the people before one leads them, using empathy, active listening skills, healing, and self-awareness. A servant leader leads with strategies of peace through persuasion, using prudent foresight, to commitment to the fair distribution of opportunity for all. He or she does not colonize the thinking of citizens to match his or own ideology, but rather follows the native, uncarved block desires and needs of the citizenry. The Taoist school of leadership builds community, not an enemy's list. What if a ruler realized that, in order to realize her or his own ends, their only hope for success is to pursue the people's ends? For just like how happiness happens when one pursues others' happiness and forgetting about one's own happiness, Lao Tzu's model of leadership shows up when leaders, and parents and teachers, by the way, when they forget about personal appetites and leads by following the people's goals. That is, leadership that works only if the people truly, truly come first. For the umpteenth time in Tao Te Ching, here's another Wu Wei application, which is knowing when to stop your own agenda in order truly to listen to another's. Wu Wei is peace, contentment with the success of others, not of one's own private agenda. The one who knows contentment and how and when contentment actually begins, that person is rich. The point is made in this verse quite bluntly, using the leader as an illustration. There's no crime greater than having too many desires. There's no disaster greater than not being content. There's no misfortune greater than being covetous. And there is no state without the leader's understated power. In the Taoist leadership school, a leader's only hope in succeeding is by first and always first pursuing the welfare of the people. So, golden rule time. Do as you would be done by. Your best interest is accomplished when we as leaders, parents, teachers, first, always first, treat others as we would want ourselves treated. Why? There's this moral law at work. A person can only pursue happiness by pursuing the happiness of others. Just like it is only in forgetting about one's own happiness that happiness happens. As D.C. Lau's verse 66 reads in part, one must, in one's person, follow behind the people. But to be out front, working their own agenda, means that leaders practice vicious, selfish, self-centered desires that diminish, well, actually robs the common good. Again, no crime worse than acting on one's selfish desires. No greater disaster to a nation than a leader who never knows contentment. No misfortune greater than coveting. Once again, a true leader will serve their own interest only when they treat their interests as inessential and peripheral, and merged harmoniously with the citizens. There is no other way to be great. Such a person, and only such a person, Tao Te Ching teaches, can rule over the empire. For the true leader is like water, flowing to all, benefiting all, but forgetful of self. Here's verse 32. Were rulers able to submit to its, or Tao's, potency, their realms would fall into their primordial and natural peace rhythms. They would see heaven and earth partner. The people would experience life as a sweet dew falling because their actions harmonize all together naturally.
When you're listening, are you listening? When you're listening, are you listening?
Class, the next 3 minutes is a sidebar to the verse. There's a crime in human affairs called the ceaseless pursuit of self, which leads only to disaster. Recall verse 7's phrase, leave self behind, find yourself fulfilled in others. Not having the extra work of living for self, one lives long. And long life is the byproduct of aligning with the low. But this works two ways. There's a dynamic relationship between the leader leaving self behind and the citizen doing the same. And here, I must be clear, but this is really hard for me, I confess, because there's another crime related to bad leadership. It happens when we citizens badmouth, condemn, and put leaders on some imagined trial in our heads and condemn them. Maybe we feel some duty to do this. I don't know. But oftentimes in circles I frequent, it is a favorite and a time-consuming pastime to slam the current leader, wish them harm, and see no redemption possible for them. So the bad-mouthing and slamming becomes some rutted habit, a habit without end, a habit without interruption, not even wanting to interrupt my self-righteous trial without jury of the leader who is, let's be truthful, just wood-chipping the state's best institutions and programs. So what's a Taoist to do then? What is a spiritual person's responsibility when a bad leader does so much harm? Again, this is hard for me. I do not like saying this, but a bad leader or any objectionable person is our test for equanimity and equity. The golden rule works both ways, like all the time, right? The current leader is a test of my spiritual essence of what I truly believe. For a Christian, a bad leader is still a child of God, and there is no statute of limitations on wishing them well, even if one is radically opposed to their leadership. For the Taoist, the same is true. Tao is in all, even that leader I so love to hate. If I go around all day just attacking, do I ever earn the right to be a leader myself? For I remain blind to so much, with so much hatred and disrespect as my filters for seeing. So verse 27 treats me then. Consider this verse from Stephen Mitchell's version. What is a good man but a bad man's teacher? What is a bad man but a good man's job? If you do not understand this, you will get lost. However intelligent you are, it is the great secret. So let's not get lost, my intelligent class, and miss the great secret here.
When you're listening, are you listening? When you're listening, are you listening?
Earlier, I mentioned Greenleaf's idea of servant leadership. Our verse 66 today is a prime example of Greenleaf's theme, serving others as true leadership. A theme recurrent throughout Tao Te Ching, which, I remind us, was first written with the leader and leadership responsibilities in mind. What is servant leadership? It is the core of most of this verse, some of which is worth repeating now. The one who would be chief on high must be the humble servant of the low. By following the people is his progress measured. The best leader seems weightless. Her subjects feel no threat or harm, so no one tires of praising her. Stay low. A king who does not strive does not offend, so no one gets defensive around him. Of the several kinds of leadership, servant leadership is the quietest, the most patient, the least known by the served. It is leadership that quietly flows like water. Its characteristics can be described by the so-called love chapter in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 from the Christian scriptures. And here I adjust its verses to replace love with servant leadership. Servants suffer long. They do not envy or parade themselves around. They are not puffed up with ego and pride because they seek not their own interest. They bear, believe, hope, and endure all things. While non-Taoist leaders lead by the heavy hand, the heavy rules, the heavy praise they require, they want to be seen as a standalone hero, providing a Hollywood-like quick solution to some intractable or long-standing problem. The servant leader, however, leads by serving, and that servant does not mind remaining incognito and unrecognized. A servant leader does not pretend to know the quick fix for any problem. These leaders take their time and use that time to empower others to be or find the fix themselves. The servant leader seeks to restore, or as I like to phrase it, to restore a bad situation by restoring it, by reframing a bad story and transforming it into a good story. A servant teacher knows her students well enough to custom tailor her lesson plans for each student so that the lesson the student learns is the lesson they most need to learn. But a non-servant teacher sees students only as pliable dough for someone's cookie-cutter, one-size-fits-all pedagogies. A servant parent listens, and their children know they are heard. A servant business person is more concerned for matching their business mission with their customers and clients. Profits take a back seat to customer well-being. A servant leader never stops because it's a practice, a Tao practice. Just as every musician plays scales and they never stop playing scales. Just like every baseball player practices batting and they never stop practicing. So too, a Taoist practices being of service to others, and that's all. The more one practices servanthood, the more attuned one is to others, and the more one is attuned to Tao. Because today, one serves. Tomorrow, one is the served. Verse 17 summarizes all this quite well. It's entitled, No Traces. The best leaders leave no trace of their governing among the people. The second best are known by the love of the people. Third best are obeyed through fear. Then come the despised and the reviled. It's obvious when a person does not trust himself, he hardly inspires others' trust. The leader's words are few, but each is priceless. Whatever she promises is a done deal. After her accomplishments, everyone says, it all happened naturally. The Beatles sang in Hey Jude, and they're right. Hey Jude, don't make it bad. Take a sad song and make it better. Servant leaders do this all the time. Take bad stories and quietly, without fanfare, help turn them into better stories. Servant leaders are like earthworms, out of sight, beneath all things, just taking the crap of the world and turning it into fertilizer. Servant leaders are like the pottery maker who turns mud into something beautiful, quietly, softly. Like the conductor of an orchestra who doesn't make a sound, but instead leads by enabling others to make powerful sounds. To be the kind of leader who leads with Tao, well, it's revolutionary today. Subversive as hell, countercultural, and imaginative. So, are you looking to be a leader? Just empower your people. Energize your students. Encourage your children to do what they and their idea of God are ready, even thirsty to do. In doing so, you'll change lives for generations. I think every person is like I am. Are we not who we are today only because of the quiet leadership of people we may not even know, but who have enabled us to be here today, alive and thriving? Our homework now is we get to do the same thing for future generations, both born and not yet born. Be that small, strategically placed rock in the stream, changing the course of the water flow to bring the maximum good to the greatest number downstream. Can I get an amen? Be sure to be with us for next episode's verse 67, which extends this bright line of servant leadership with a discussion about the sage, leaders, parents, three treasures which guide and empowers them. Finally, we conclude with our now traditional child-friendly version of today's verse. Verse 66, Be the ocean. Oceans are the greatest because they stay low and welcome every river and stream. Being low is actually pretty big if you think about it. A leader who wants to be the best must serve and stay humble. They lead by following and listening. The best leaders don't boss people around. Their people feel safe and happy and naturally praise them. So stay low, like the ocean. A leader who does not push or upset anyone is the one who gets everyone to work together. And they all remember how cool that was. This free podcast is made possible by leaders like graphic artist Audrey Davis and music artist Molly Hartwell and printing artist Fortress Press, all of whom contributed without cost. Thank you. May your days begin in peace and become opportunities to bring out your treasures to those most in need of hope today.
Are you listening?